Hi everyone, this is Jillian from Jewish Workshops and Aish Webinars. It is a pleasure to be joining all of you today, and we are extremely privileged to have Abby Weisz on the line. Before we get started, I'd love to see who's joining us and where you're from. So I know again that this is a very sensitive topic. If you're comfortable going ahead and writing just your first name or your initials and where you're joining us from, I'd love to be able to welcome as many people as possible. Again, I remember that this is a sensitive topic, so if you're not comfortable, please don't feel the need, but I'd love to be able to welcome as many people as I can. So if you go to the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen and just feel free to put in your initials and where you're joining us from. Welcome E from Israel. And Sandy from California, welcome. Dossie from Maryland. We've got somebody from Florida, welcome. Yitzchak from Florida. And Chava from Michigan, welcome. HT from Georgia. D from Lakewood. T from South Africa. Ken from Toronto. Adina from Cleveland, welcome. Sandy from Tennessee. And Deanne from Ohio. S from Brooklyn, welcome. Let's see, I from Israel and Shmuel from New York, RH from New York, and Marta from Israel, welcome. Leah from New York, O from Lakewood, Jennifer from Great Neck, JG from Florida, B from LA, welcome. Kim from Ohio, and D from Israel. We've got someone from Holland, welcome, and Angela from the Pacific Northwest. Nice to see you here. Mark and Susan from Boston, welcome. Eliza from California and Elle from New York. Welcome Naomi from Mexico. It is so nice to see people coming in from all over the world. Really, it is wonderful to have all of you here. And as people continue to flood in throughout, we had over 2,000 people sign up for today's webinar, so please don't leave in the middle. God willing, we will hit capacity very shortly, and I don't want you to miss a thing or be locked out in the middle. And let me just get a few more of these people. Welcome Ellen from Geneva and Grace from Toronto, Stephen from Helsinki. Welcome to all. From the time Jewish Workshops began, we've offered a variety of programs on marriage, relationships, personal growth and introspection, and much more. But just last year, it was the first time we ever had the opportunity to open our doors to a marriage therapist, sex educator, and intimacy counselor. Since then, countless emails and phone calls have come in requesting guidance in one of the most sensitive areas of our lives. So we asked Abby to come back and introduce to us today tools and skills we can use based on her expertise in couples relationships. With hundreds of questions that came in ahead of time, we will do our best to answer as many possible live on the line. So stay tuned till the end to get your questions answered and to hear about this one-time chance to join Abby for a full online program at a special discounted rate just for attending today. It is a supreme honor to be hosting Abby Weisz. Abby is a marriage and family therapist, psychotherapist, sex educator, and intimacy counselor. Through individual therapy, couples work, lectures, and workshops, Abby has helped people from around the world make the changes necessary to transform their relationships and their lives. Abby works closely with Rabbanim both in Israel and in the US, who have a deep understanding in the areas of halacha surrounding intimacy and sexuality in order to offer the best guidance possible. Abby, we are so grateful that you are joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and pass the microphone over to you. How are you?
I'm really great, thank God. I'm very excited to be here with all of you. And I want to just take a minute to welcome you all, myself. Thank you to Jillian, to Jewish Workshops, and to Aish.com for really making this happen. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here again and to be doing this important work with all of you. And I really laud all of you for signing up and for joining, and I'm very much looking forward to tonight and God willing this series. It's really a special thing to be involved in a learning opportunity surrounding this topic with people from all over the world. It's really, really exciting. So welcome. And in getting to know each other and starting off this learning adventure together, I wanted to introduce myself a little bit. I know, Jillian, thank you for taking the time to introduce me. I'm just going to give you a little bit of my background so you know who you're talking to as we address this intimate topic. I came to this work, intimacy counselor, sex educator, and marriage therapist through different hats that I wore over the past 20 years. And starting with the role that I played as a rebbitzin in a community in America, where I served as the mikvah lady, escorting women to the mikvah, and I was teaching kalot. I was a kala teacher at that point, and I also did informal education with the teenagers and the women surrounding healthy body image. And in all of these different hats that I wore, I was touched and moved by the lack of information surrounding healthy sexuality. And I didn't only find this in the Orthodox community, I actually worked in the secular community as well. And I really found that the only way to access any information about sexuality was if you Google it, right? And what happens when people go on the internet and start looking up sexuality? So most often they are confronted with topics and perhaps pictures that aren't, let's say, representing healthy sexuality. And I found that there was a real need both in the Orthodox community and the secular community and the global community for information about healthy sexuality and intimacy. And so when we made Aliyah, I pursued both my master's in Jewish education and my master's in social work to create this new title in therapy and being a therapist and lecturer on this topic. Baruch Hashem, I have a clinic now in Jerusalem and in Beit Shemesh. You're meeting me here tonight in my office in Beit Shemesh. And I guess good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. And I'm very excited to start this learning together. Before we start, I just want to offer a disclaimer, a precaution that the talk tonight, we're going to be talking about the emotional and physical kind of interplay and how that plays out in intimacy and safety in the relationship. Okay, and so the topic, the word that I'm going to keep using, and I'm going to use it a little bit loosely, is the word safety. And I just want to start by saying that if you find yourself in an abusive relationship, either emotionally abusive, verbally or physically abusive, so I would encourage you not to join this series. I would encourage you though to get the help needed to heal yourself. There is help out there, and to recognize that the messages that I'm sharing tonight are for couples that are definitely struggling in different areas. But if you're able to label any aspect of your marriage as abuse, I really strongly suggest that you get help. And I could be helpful in helping you find the right spot for that. You can definitely be in touch. B'simcha. And the other piece that I want to speak to is that I really, both as a sex educator and both as a therapist, in both the educational role and the therapeutic role, I do not see myself as a halachic voice. If a halachic question comes up, I am in touch with Rabbanim across the spectrum of Orthodoxy, and it's really, I work through a case-by-case basis. And so what you'll be hearing tonight and also in the course series is not the halachic voice, but it is influenced by halachic sources. Next topic that's really important is the topic of language, okay? So I think, everyone should know what they're getting themselves into before they join. And it's going to be a great learning adventure, but I like to be open and honest, and that I do use explicit language. I do use proper medical terminology. And if that's something that you're not comfortable with, that's important to recognize. And I think that in general surrounding this topic, because it's a less spoken about topic, I will ask you throughout the course to really check in with yourself and to recognize, what is this bringing up for me? How is this for me to be sitting here, whether you're sitting here alone, whether you're sitting here with your partner, whether you would be like to be sitting here with your partner, to really try to be in touch with what's going on for you individually, because a person cannot engage in this process of a discussion surrounding physical and emotional intimacy without it touching something in you personally. So because I can't see you, and I can't see how your face is responding to what I'm saying, I trust that you are going to lishmor al atzmechem, that you are going to take care of yourselves and really check in with yourself and recognize how does this feel for me, and please feel free to be in touch either during the course or afterwards with any questions or concerns. Okay. With all of those, disclaimers and precautions, let's start learning. The topic for tonight is intimacy. And I just want to say that really and truly, I got a lot of questions. Is this class shy for me? Is it appropriate for me if I'm at this age, if I'm at this stage of my marriage? And I want to say that this class, everything that we will be talking about tonight in this class, I will give different examples from, different life stages and ages, but everything in the class is applicable. The concepts, the theory is applicable to every individual and every couple in whatever life stage they find themselves. And so let's open the discussion to our global classroom, which I'm so excited to be a part of. Please share with us on the chat page, the chat box. What does intimacy mean to you? I know it takes a minute until it starts loading.
Exactly. So you can just go right back to the chat box where you originally wrote your names. Or if you didn't write your name in, you can put in a question box and you can just go ahead and answer there. So here we go. They are coming in now. Successfully being vulnerable with someone else. A chance
to reconnect. What's the last thing you said? Sorry.
Successfully being vulnerable with someone else. A chance to reconnect. Closeness, safety, and somebody who really sees me for who I am. Intercourse, a physical connection. Holding hands. Physical and emotional closeness. Sharing core feelings, being physical. Connection, to have regular sex life in a marriage.
Wow.
Individual personal connection. Physical connection. Connection and trust. Feeling close to my spouse, an emotional connection, feeling safe to share your innermost self without fear of it being misused.
Beautiful.
Love.
Okay,
warmth.
Great. I love all of these answers. They're all outstanding. Sorry that I'm not gonna let you read anymore right now. But thank you all for sharing, and thank you for really each person really hitting on a different aspect and a different meaning of what intimacy is. There's a cute saying that what's intimacy? Into me you see. The ability, like somebody said in the beginning, of the other person seeing into you. But how does that happen is if you open yourself up and you allow yourself to be vulnerable in that way. And I'm talking about vulnerability emotionally, but also physically. The whole act of, being, making your entire body vulnerable and taking off clothing and actually presenting the naked self to the other is a real act of vulnerability. And it is an act of intimacy. I think that the main idea that I would like to bring out tonight, okay, is the interplay between the emotional intimacy and the physical intimacy. And it's very clear that what is going on in the emotional arena of a relationship is very often reflective of what's going on in the physical arena, and what's going on in the bedroom we can see clearly is reflective of what's going on in the emotional aspect of the marriage. And very often the two will reflect each other, and we could also say vice versa, that what we see playing out emotionally in a marriage, we see very often playing out physically. And as much as there's potential for pain and for discomfort in that area, there's also, as you can imagine, great potential for pleasure and hope and growth. And what I really wanted to focus on today is understanding. The first part that we're going to do is we're going to do some understanding of what is the physical experience. And we're also going to understand certain tools. We're going to learn certain tools to building emotional intimacy, to building emotional closeness. So I just want to I told you I'm going to ask everyone to check in with themselves. Just, take a minute, check in with yourself before we take this next step together. How is the class for you so far? Is anything being triggered? Are you comfortable with the content and with the language? And take a deep breath, and I will too. So encourage being in touch with what's going on for each person individually. And if anyone has any questions, I'll just allow for that quickly. Okay. I'm going to assume not. Great. So let's start with the first topic. Okay. So the first topic is the experience of the physical body. Okay. So we're talking about physical intimacy. We're talking about emotional intimacy. Let's get down to the basics. What goes on in the physical body when the body has an experience? Okay. If we're going to say that the two are linked, so we have to understand the steps taken that create that link. So first of all, it is said in classic literature that I can ask, what's the largest sexual organ of the body? And I know just because it takes a while for the answers to load, I'm going to keep talking. But the largest sexual organ in the body is our skin. Okay, it covers 90% of the human body, and it's covered with nerve endings and with sensitivity. And it's fascinating to think about that. This is really Hashem's creation, and in all of its perfection is Hashem created the guf, and he gave us this guf, he gave us this physical body in order for us to experience the world that he created, in order for us to be an active participant in the world. And if we want to take from Hashkafa, and we want to take a Jewish approach, that really the guf, the body, is a kli for us to do mitzvot, which, is another beautiful concept. But the guf is really our kli in order to experience the world. And I'm not even talking about erogenous zones that I'm sure, people have heard about and you talk about and you could read about, because really and truly every area of the human body, every part of our skin is technically an erogenous zone. And that's just take a minute to take that in, and that allows us to really consider the potential for greatness. I'm sorry, I'm just going to plug this in. And I think it's important to consider that in any physical experience, so the body's taking it all in. Now, I'm not talking about a sexual experience yet. I want to just explain this concept in terms of like your regular human, your daily experiences, okay? So we'll use the example of fire, okay? So what happens? A person comes close to something that's hot or fire, touches it, right? And the skin picks up the sensation that it's hot, jumps back. The brain processes the pain, but the brain learns being exposed to this heat element is potentially harmful, and it creates a neural pathway in the brain that speaks to the fact that fire is dangerous. This is not safe for you to touch. Okay, so if we think about that, then all day, in so many different instances in our life, our brains are creating these neural pathways that depend on the experiences that our body is having. So I'm going to just put on my therapist hat for 1 minute. If you can think of that in terms of, let's say, a baby, a young child, okay, who is being held by their parent. So if the child is being held and the mother is, or the father is very anxious and is shaking the child very much, that's how the child experiences touch. That's the child's experience. And again, I put on my therapist hat, and it's very hard for me not to go into their just discussion about attachment theory, but I'm not going to. We're going to stick with this neuropathway topic. That is the experience of touch. And so that is the child's experience of touch. And so then whenever that child experiences this, whatever connection it has for that child in their brain, that will automatically be triggered when that's experienced later on in life. And I think if I could just bring it into a discussion about sexuality, that let's say a young Kala is a young Kala who has never had any experience sexually before she's married, comes to her wedding night. The Chatan and Kala come to their wedding night, and they have challenges in consummating their marriage, that there's pain involved on her end. And so for her, the neural pathway that is created is that of intercourse, that is penetrative sex, could lead to pain, vaginal pain. And every time that situation is set up, that neural pathway is triggered, okay? So two pieces of really important information is how deep that neuropathway is depends on how many times we are exposed to the I just lost my word, to the, I don't want to say, to the, I want to say influencer. I'm losing my words. I'm sorry. But more important is that, let's say a person would want to change that experience. Let's say that person would want to affect change in that neuropathway, how much effort it would take and how much time it would take. Okay, but let's not get there yet. So let's stay here now with when you experience something that is potentially painful, how it impacts the brain. Similarly, if there is an experience like that in potentially lovemaking that is pleasurable, how impactful that is, and how, aside from hormones that are released both for the male and the female, just the actual physical experience could potentially be pleasurable and leading to more connection and a greater feeling of safety and intimacy. So I think that if we can for a minute, I want to ask for your participation here, okay? In our marriages, we hope for many things. And so if you can take a moment, the audience, to speak to for a moment, what are some of your hopes in your marriage? Some of the things that you hope to gain in your relationship.
They hope to gain understanding, trust, to grow old together, ongoing connection and growth, safety, closeness, passion, more connection, feeling of closeness and connection, deep emotional connection, companionship, love, and respect, a best friend and an unconditional support, more desire for the physical connection, a partner in life's experiences, to become best friends, to have a successful marriage in all aspects, friendship, finding time to be together, not to be alone in my marriage, mutual respect. I constantly hope to get understanding from my husband, more connection, unconditional love. Great. So many of these things, so many of these ideas really are based on this need for and this understanding of safety, of an underlying factor to achieving these hopes and these elements of relationship is that I feel safe enough to reach for that, or to strive for that idea, or to experience that. Okay, so if we could just tie it back into this idea of the neural pathways being affected, okay, that in the physical experience, if in the physical experience what is communicated is that this is safe, not only is this pleasurable, but this is safe, this is a safe space for me to make myself vulnerable, therein lies a major foundation to creating that element of safety, that level of safety that we really need. And what I've seen consistently in my clinic is two main areas where couples get stuck in their intimate life, in their physically intimate life. And that is if there's pain involved in the penetrative intercourse, if there's fear or inability to communicate physically. So that's kind of like the pain aspect. And then there's the pleasure aspect of we would like for more pleasure. We would like to feel more desirous of each other. I don't want to simplify it too much because every case, again, is a unique case. But those, if I could say generally, those are two main elements. And I feel like the ability to feel safe in your marriage is how you can define either of those things. So if I could just ask everyone again, how safe do you feel in your marriage? And I feel like I'm excited to hear everyone's numbers in a minute. And I feel like you can already notice, I'm sure it's coming up for each of you. And if I could see the questions, I would say, are you talking about my physical part of my marriage or my emotional part? So we're gonna keep it like umbrella, both right now. And I think you can notice already, potentially, if you're thinking about it, how the two may be overlapping for you. But 0 being not safe at all, again, that would mean that you are potentially in an abusive relationship and should seek further help. And 10 being
really, really safe? Okay, from 0 to 10.
So we have very safe, totally safe, not emotionally safe, very safe, about 60%, 95%, a 5, a 7, an 8, a 10, a lot of 10s, thank God, 8, 9, 7, 6. I feel quite safe emotionally, 9 or 10, just disappointed with our physical intimacy.
Okay.
Here we have a 0, a 9, 100% safe, completely safe, 4, 9, 7, 3.
Okay. I'm hearing a range, and I know there's always a range. The person who really does not feel safe, please be in touch for more help. I think that, you know, being here tonight is really a first step in working through your 3s, 4s, and 9s and 10s, because I think what we all believe, and everybody who's here tonight believes, that being in a relationship means putting in work. And whatever stage we're at, there's always more effort and more development and more growth that could happen. So I think that the opposite of feeling safe in a relationship would be feeling vulnerable or alone or not comfortable or secure. And if this goes on, then what happens there is that couples start to distance themselves from each other, physically and emotionally. And as we said before, those two are intertwined, and slowly, as one breaks down, the other breaks down as well, chas v'shalom, but potentially. And when the emotional feeling of safety isn't present, so the body, as it was trained by the neural pathway, responds in kind. It reacts physically in the same way, that needing distance, feeling misunderstood, needing to take a step back and take a step away. I think that if you're identifying with any of the feelings mentioned above in your relationship, or others that are painful and hard, and it could play out in your physical life as erectile dysfunction. I'll give you an example from my clinic. A man who does not feel like he has a voice in his relationship, that his voice is always being shut down, that he literally can't express himself in his marriage, that might come out in him not being able to maintain an erection. A female who suffers from lack of desire, so she may feel put down and less valued in the relationship, and therefore feel down emotionally. Again, her emotional experience, similar to his emotional experience, will play out physically. And that would be that she's not looking for connection. She's not looking for the physical closeness because she's feeling the emotional distance. That could look like a lack of passion, lack of interest in general, loneliness, not feeling heard, feeling rejected, wondering if your spouse is attracted to you physically, and does he or she care for you emotionally. These are all possibilities that a person could experience, and the potential pain. And I really want to say that I'm with you in this pain. And this is the experience of a lot of people. And it's not even because you did something wrong. Sometimes it's just that that's how things develop over years, and challenges that come up in a relationship, and issues that were not able to be resolved. I think that, a separate topic, but it is part of this topic, I can't discuss this topic without addressing this specifically, is the experience of one part of the couple or both parts of the couple, but I'm going to stick to one part of the couple in particular, suffering from a certain kind of mental illness, really any kind of mental illness. I'm going to use depression right now as an example, just because it's so prevalent and it's so common, and whether it's diagnosed or undiagnosed, the experience not only of the person who themselves is suffering with a mental illness, but of the partner, is that there is instability in the relationship. The ups and downs that go along with the depressive mood disorder you're unable to predict, and you're unable to kind of call for, kind of be aware of before, and only when you're in it do you know. And so that would explain very much a feeling of lack of safety, a lack of stability in a relationship, and could cause the spouse to distance themselves because they're not feeling safe emotionally. And again, I know both parts are being affected, but because so many couples struggle with this and don't even recognize what they're struggling with, I like to very explicitly spell it out. I think it's important to say here that ups and downs in relationships are normal. Okay, I always give the example of like on a heart rate monitor, like in the hospital. So like you want to see movement of the heart, right? Ups and downs are normal. That's what we want to see, right? When we see a straight line across, that means, God forbid, that means the person is dead. And similarly in relationship, we're not looking for like dead. Life is, thank God, busy and ups and downs and highs and lows, but we don't want to see extreme highs and extreme lows. And we also want to see the ability, the resiliency to come down from the highs and come up from the lows. And that is the resiliency of the relationship. And that is where the emotional intimacy really plays a part. Because when a couple is able to be intimate with each other emotionally, and all those pieces that everyone was so open and shared about before, about being able to be vulnerable and feeling safe, that is what allows for a couple to work together. Excuse me. Now, I mentioned that when I was explaining about my past work and how I kind of came to this work, and I just want to touch on this briefly here, is the importance that body image and perception plays out in terms of the physical relationship. And if there, first of all, again, each person with how they feel about their own body, but if there was any feeling of lack of interest or not attracted to the other person's body, how harming that could be, and how much that could affect one's ability to want to be physically intimate. Now, any of these are difficult enough as standalone issues, but often they compound in a relationship, or they can be continuous over years, like the idea of not feeling attracted to or not being attracted to your spouse's body. So when one element of the physical relationship is not spoken about or shied away from, it's very easy for the next issue that comes up to be dealt with in the same way. And then before you know it, there is an ocean separating husband and wife. Okay. And so what I keep seeing, and unfortunately, I always get very excited when a couple comes into my clinic and their issues, they're at the beginning stages of their issues. And they say, well, we realize this issue came up and we just want to fix it before it gets into be a bigger issue. But sadly, people don't do that and often wait until the issue is so large that it seems almost impossible for them to solve it. And here I kind of want to speak to the value of doing courses and doing classes, because I do believe that with proper communication tools, most issues, I don't want to say all, but many issues that couples struggle with, if you have the proper tools to communicate with each other and to feel heard one by the other, that's a great starting point to solving the challenges and to not letting them become an ocean separating you and your spouse. And so again, kol hakavod, shkayach for making it here tonight to really start this process. But what I have seen is that any small crack not attended to, any small fissure in the foundation of shalom bayit in the emotional area and in the physical area can lead to real cracks in the foundation. And it really is shalom bayit. It really is the glue that holds us together. I would even so much say that, the physical intimacy is the glue that holds us together, the glue that holds husband and wife together, coupled with the emotional intimacy. Okay, so that's why I'm here. And that's how I started doing what I do. When these inyanim are not discussed, the potential for harm just continues to grow, and the safe foundation of the marriage is corrupted. With a deep understanding of the role of safety in both the emotional and physical relationship, you can start to affect change. And it seems like you get it. I can't see your faces, but I hope that you're with me. If anyone has any questions, you could let me know. But I really appreciate those of you who have taken the time to fill out the survey, the Jewish Workshop survey, and to send in some of your questions when you registered for the course. Although there are a few who have spoken directly to specific sexual dysfunction, the majority of responders have been able to verbalize very deep feelings of marginalization and distance in their relationships and related to ability and openness to sexuality. So today, in the second part of our class tonight, which is like I described first, we're going to focus a little bit on the physical. Now we're going to focus a little bit on the emotional intimacy. In our second part of the class tonight, we're really going to be addressing the ability to communicate emotionally with your spouse. Let me just plug this in again. And in order to do that effectively, I want to present the Gottman safehouse model. And here, if I could ask Jillian if you could pull up this slide. I have it here in front of me.
There you go. It's up.
Great. So if you've seen this before, if you haven't seen it before, hopefully you'll still be able to learn something new. John and Julie Gottman started the Couples Institute over 30 years ago. They've been doing work and research with couples for more than 30 years, and their work is outstanding. I see myself, as part of this series, I also would like to be a resource, offering you resources to do your own research. And so the Gottman Institute, I'm sorry, not the Couples Institute, the Gottman Institute that you could find online has tremendous resources for couples to really do some work from the comfort of your own home. And I want to present today their sound relationship house. Now, what I'm going to add on, the piece that I'm going to add on to their work is the piece surrounding, and at each level of the sound relationship house, I wanted to add in a piece about what that would look like in terms of the physical relationship. So that is the voice that I bring, the physical experience. And in doing research and preparing for this course, I looked into a bunch of different sources, and I just want to bring up again. I think it's important to know your resources and know what's out there. I want to bring up the work of Esther Perel and her work in Mating in Captivity, and there she presents an opposite opinion of what we're going to be talking about tonight. But I think it's important to consider because this could be some people's experience, and it's a valid one as well. In her book, Mating in Captivity, and in her clinical work in general, she tells couples not to cuddle. She also believes that emotional connection will stand in the way of good erotic connection. And this is truly the opposite of what I believe and what I have seen. I really believe that the ability for a couple to communicate and to make yourself vulnerable emotionally will allow for more exciting, more vibrant, physical, intimate life, more exciting sex life. And here she she brings up that the idea of excitement and spontaneity negates that and would take away from an exciting sex life. Now, I think that's important to notice, and with a different view, let's move forward and look at our sound relationship house. Okay, so if you look at the house, first thing is first, okay, is that there are two pillars supporting the home. And those two pillars is what I would say are two of the 3 or 4, we're going to say 3 for tonight, most important foundations of relationship, and that is trust and commitment, okay? We're talking about feeling safe in a relationship, so you have to feel that you can trust your partner, or you have to be a trustworthy partner. That's one. And then you have to feel that your partner is committed and that you are committed to this relationship. And it is on those two pillars that the Shalom Bayit, that the sound relationship house stands. And as he kind of built, they built it up in ladder formation. So we're going to start at the bottom, the foundational part of the house, and that is to build love map. So the stage one of building this sound relationship house is knowing one another's worlds, knowing about each other. Oftentimes when I'm speaking in groups or when I'm working with couples, we say, we talk about building love maps. And what's a love map? And I ask the couple to go back to when you were dating, okay? And to think about the things that you used to know about each other and that you used to be interested in about each other. Not that you're not interested anymore, but knowing the details of one another's world is really the work of building a love map. and to know, what makes me excited, what makes me happy, what was going on in my day, what dress did I wear on our first date, what's my favorite, what kind of shaver do I use, whatever details that are important to you. And on the Gottman Institute website, they actually have a list of questions for building love maps and a fun exercise for couples to do together. And what about me do you want to know, or what I like you to know? That's part of my daily life. And if I can add in the layer of the physical relationship, so here I would add in questions surrounding, can we talk comfortably about our sex life? So here, two things are really important is language, okay? How do we refer to intimacy? Do we have the language to refer to our intimate life? Do we have a language to refer to our body parts? And there, to me, that is a basic level that is so important for a couple. If we're talking about communication and the importance of communication in order to build emotional safety in a relationship, so there has to be the ability to communicate surrounding this topic. And it's something that a couple needs to slowly introduce if they don't already do it, and learn and test out. Do I feel comfortable with this language? Do I feel comfortable with this choice of words? How would this feel more comfortable for me? Is it more comfortable in the dark? Is it more comfortable in the light? Is it more comfortable for walking side by side in the street? Recognizing that this is a conversation that we need to have with each other, especially because we are engaged in physical connection, which is a conversation that we need to be able to have with each other, and what is the best way to do it for each of us? How are we each comfortable? If we move to the next level of the sound relationship house, is the level of sharing fondness and admiration. And I think what happens over months and years of a marriage and life picking up and getting very hectic is that couples lose their shared interests. The things that brought them together, that really bonded them, get lost over the years and the hectic nature of our lives. And so we got to reconnect, and now we got to recreate that, okay, and make sure that we share that. And what does that look like in the physical realm? To me, I call that's date night, okay? And date night, I could give quick guidelines for a weekly date night. It could be anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours. And the main rules are that, the focus is not, I used to say you're not allowed to talk about kids, work, or finances. But a lot of people say to me, then what are we going to talk about? So first of all, you're going to talk about the things that you used to talk about before you had kids, potentially not work, but the house finances. And the things that you enjoy, the things that are fun together, the shared fondness and admiration that you have for each other, ideas, exciting intellectual concepts that you want to share with each other. The idea there is to continue just enjoying each other. You can keep playing and having fun together if that means playing games. I think also in this level of the sound relationship house, I would include cuddling, and that is really everybody according to their cultural norms. It doesn't necessarily have to be physically cuddling. I know for certain couples, it's not comfortable to have any physical contact outside of the bedroom or in front of the children, but they are able to share an intimate look, eye contact, or they're able to sit in close proximity to each other, which convey the same ideas. And here again, take a minute to check in with yourself. What are my feelings and thoughts about this, about where I am individually? And similarly, the last item on this level is that the couple makes sexuality, and I'm not necessarily talking about actual sexual intercourse, but the whole topic of sexuality, of us being able to explore and enjoy each other sensually and sexually, that isn't the last item on a long to-do list. And I think what happens again with the pace of our busy lives is that a couple's physical intimacy, their ability to be sexual with each other, moves to the bottom of the list. There's the house responsibilities, there's the work responsibilities. For many of us, there's community responsibilities. We want to be actively involved in our communities. And then, of course, there's the laundry. There's always the laundry, whether it needs to be put in the washing machine, put in the dryer, or folded. It is always there. Baruch Hashem, right? And how do we kind of move the laundry down to the bottom of the list and let other things come more to the top of the list. So with those ideas, let's move on to the next level. And this is the yellow level, and it's the idea of turning towards instead of away. And I like to really use a very visual version of this, because I feel it. I feel the intentionality and the idea of a couple taking the time to turn towards each other instead of away from each other at times of stress or times of conflict is so basic, and it's so important. And I will talk about it more extensively in this series, as well as some other topics in here will definitely come up in the series more in depth. But this one in particular, I really see it as an actual physical turning towards each other. What I've heard so many times in my clinic is that when something is said between a couple, okay, or something is experienced in a couple, there is so much potential for it to be interpreted as an attack, okay, based on the neuro pathway that is established, that we have established, based on, you know, when this happens and this happens and this is what I hear, this is what I experience, okay? And what happens automatically when a person feels attacked is their defenses go up. You automatically are either in fear, or you're in hurt, or you're in pain. And the truth is that a person goes into fight or flight. That's a very natural fear response one. And just as a side note, again, something that we'll talk about later on in the series is the very close connection between our fear response and our arousal response. It's the same hormone being released at that point. And what happens is that when a person is feeling attacked, they could either fight back, and that would look like sniping back. You feel that you were slighted, so you slight back, or flight, and that is distancing themselves from the other, and that is literally moving away physically from the other person. And the hardest work, but it takes so much intentionality, is to recognize, you know, maybe that wasn't an attack, maybe that wasn't meant towards me personally. Is there any space here for us to intentionally turn towards each other in this exchange? Is there any space here for us to sit down and focus on each other instead of continue through the day or through the evening and not actually take the time to connect and to communicate with each other clearly? And I think for many couples, if you're able to just stop and ask yourself that question, so that that could be very meaningful. The next level is the positive perspective. And here, Gottman, they're talking about, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. They're talking about staying good friends, enjoying each other's company, hanging out, really just enjoying each other. Here that would play out in the physical realm as being able to verbalize your care and concern for each other and mean it. I wrote in my notes, you know, say I love you every day, but that's really like an abridged version, because you don't need to use the words I love you. There are so many other ways for a couple to develop their communicative abilities, to express their love or care or concern for the other without using the words I love you. And if that's something meaningful, then definitely use them, but don't limit yourself to your word choices and your ways that you could express your care and concern for your spouse. And the other thing that comes up is the ability to engage physically spontaneously, not necessarily planned. And that could entail, you know, a passionate kiss. It could also entail a rub on the shoulder, a little hug, any one of those. Any physical showing of affection would show the positive perspective. I'm just checking in with everybody. I see that we're moving along with time, so I don't really have time to ask for questions. I just want to make sure everybody's with me. We're moving. Don't worry. We're gonna get there. And everybody, I'm just gonna assume that you're all okay. Okay. Now, this next section of the Sound Relationship House is something, again, that we're going to be working on and developing in depth throughout this series, and that's the ability to manage conflict. Okay, so I think that the whole idea of being able to manage conflict is a key, it's a cornerstone to creating a healthy show and buy it. And so I'm going to work through some of these steps, and hopefully some of it will be useful for you. So accepting your partner's influence. And again, I'm referring to here not in an abusive relationship, but I'm not talking about, okay, whatever she says I have to do, whatever he says I have to do. No, but being able to hear the other in the relationship. And the question that we want to ask ourselves is, do I want to be right, or do I want to be in relationship? And being in relationship means being able to listen to the other and hear the other, as well as be able to express yourself. And again, we're going to get into the details of that later on in the series. I guess I'm hoping that you're going to join, because there's a lot of stuff that I want to get into more depth about with you. Developing the language to discuss intimacy. Here again, a couple's sex life can be a non-discussed topic. And when something is not discussed, it literally becomes unspeakable. And it could be for various reasons, including shyness or feelings of discomfort surrounding the issue, or over years of just lack of sleep or satisfaction. So can we have a discussion? Can we have an open discussion? And here we're going to lead into this next topic of dialoguing about our problems, creating the language. Again, we spoke extensively about that, creating. Choose your words, choose your language comfortably. Are we able to talk about specifically our sexual functioning and our ability to enjoy each other and pleasure each other? Here, again, later on in the series, I'm going to be talking about managing conflict and how important it is for each person to be in touch with what is going on for themselves individually, what is being triggered, what is being activated while in conflict and before you respond to your partner in conflict. And this leads into the next part, is being able to practice self-soothing. Because I think so many times in relationship, we look to the other in order to bring ourselves to a place of calm. And that is not necessarily the ideal model. And the ideal model is for each person to be able to, yes, be in a relationship and work through issues in a relationship, but each person is actually responsible for themselves and your ability to calm yourself and soothe yourself and bring yourself to a safe space. And moving up in the sound relationship house is making our life dreams come true, taking us back to our original shared goals and current as well. But the idea of being there for each other and being really in it with each other. And here I give like the physical example of taking a vacation together. Now, whether that's, some couples are makpid to take, 4 days to a place. I just say 2 days, 1 night, early morning of the first day until late night of the second day, 1 night away, literally for the couple to make their dreams come true with each other, just be with each other, connect with each other, enjoy a different environment, and allow for that reconnection to happen. To me, that falls under this category. And the last but not least is creating the shared meaning. And as a marriage or a lifetime together evolves, there will be opportunities to create something that is meaningful to you both. Maybe not equally, but significant on both ends. And find them, develop them, organize yourselves around them. And here, I'm going to focus on the idea of in sexuality, in physical relationship, the idea of mutual pleasure and mutual giving. And this kind of I have running along the top of the roof of the house, along with the creating shared meaning, but mutual pleasure and mutual giving, what that looks like in terms of physicality, in terms of lovemaking, that each partner is actively involved in this process. And each person really deserves that. Okay. So as we're winding down in our class together, I just want to talk for a minute about the idea of pleasure. Because how could we have an intro class about intimacy and not talk about pleasure, right? And so if we think about it, Hashem in his infinite wisdom, he created 2 pleasure centers in the body. The first pleasure center that I want to bring up, and that's something that we all know, experience regularly, hopefully, it's actually a bracha to be able to experience taste. And the pleasure center is the pleasure center of the tongue. And your tongue is covered with small little taste buds, and each one is, they're salty, they're sweet, they're tangy. And it really, if you think about it, is Hashem really wanted us to be enjoying this world. And nowadays, especially with, every social media, all the posts and all the blogs are about food and making yummy food and enjoying food. And if we think about how often we as a community really honor and are engaged in coming around the table, enjoying food together is also a way of bringing people together. And And so the tongue has really become a major pleasure center. It is a major pleasure center of the body. And we think about that Hashem also created a sexual pleasure center. So from this, I understand, if we want to just take an understanding that this idea from, I explained I want this along the roof of mutual pleasure and giving. Here, I would say that each person deserves physical pleasure. And it's literally like a God-given right. Now, it's not so easy for every single person to access that part of their body, to access that experience, whether for themselves individually or in a relationship, to recognize that that is something that each person is deserving of. And when we are engaged in mutual pleasure and mutual giving in a safe relationship, just imagine the neural pathways that are being developed, that are being kind of, I do this, I feel like it's like you're setting a groove in your brain that can be filed. And that there is room for that. That is the hope. That is the main hope of our learning together, of our class together. I just want to take 1 minute before we end, and I'm going to just move through this quickly, is the things to be wary of, okay? So because we took time to go through the Sound Relationship House, and I really see it as so valuable to creating emotional intimacy in a marriage, things to be wary of, things to look out for, are things that will basically be the opposite of the Sound Relationship House. And couples, and this would lead to a negative sex life also. Couples who spend very little time together during a typical week, or couples that he becomes very job-centered or child-centered, or she becomes very job-centered or child-centered. Couples that talk mostly about their huge to-do list and not about connecting with each other, like we talked about when we were reviewing the house. Couples who seem to make everything else a priority other than their relationship. Couples that drift apart and lead parallel lives. Remember, we spoke about the turning towards each other versus turning away. And couples that are unintentional about turning towards one another. All of the elements discussed here in the safe house are vital to developing the commitment and trust, and then the safety. And the ability to do this work emanates from the friendship base, which speaks to an internal understanding of trust and commitment. And so essentially, we're saying that, that we're in this together. This is where energies need to be focused, both of us together. Forget loving each other. We need to work on liking each other. We need to work on being in relationship with each other. And otherwise, it is not possible. If you are not in active relationship with the other for the purpose of creating a safe space in the marriage, it's not possible to make oneself vulnerable. It's not possible to make oneself vulnerable emotionally. And it's definitely not possible to make oneself vulnerable physically. To literally bare yourself physically to the other takes a very strong base of safety, a feeling of safety, a feeling of understanding. I think that we are blessed in a lot of ways with the experience of Nida, of Taras HaMishpacha, that it really makes a couple stop and work on the ability to be emotionally intimate, to learn the language, to develop a language, to create a language, and to communicate in order to create that safe space, this sound relationship house that will create the makom, the space for healthy physical intimacy. So in conclusion, I just want to review a little bit before we end, just because I feel like, we started out on one topic, we started talking about one topic, we moved into another topic, and I just want to bring it all together for you. What we understand is the body goes through experiences, it goes through physical experiences, and every time it's exposed to, the skin is exposed, the brain is recording those experiences, and it's creating these neural pathways that are taking note of what the experience was surrounding the physical contact. And whether the experience was safe or not, how did it feel? And it's creating a record of what those experiences are. And then we moved into this idea of the sound relationship house that says, yes, you may have had positive experiences, negative experiences, the ability to come together surrounding those experiences and to create a space in the marriage for safety, for healthy emotional connections. That is where there is room to affect change in the neural pathways that were created and developed surrounding touch. And so I feel like, this is clearly a very large topic, but I'm hoping that for each couple, for each individual that is here tonight, different ideas can be observed, different ideas can be picked up, different pieces you are clicking in place for you for how you can affect change for yourself as well as for your marriage. So I think that I wanna end by giving everybody an exercise, kind of a little homework, and that is something that we would do in the series, not necessarily homework that it shouldn't be like a pain to do, but an exercise for you and potentially your spouse to engage in at home, to kind of test out and to see what you gained from the class and another way to enjoy each other and to connect. So for tonight, I want to offer you an activity, an exercise that could be a little bit intense, and again, only engage in it if you're feeling some level of safety in your marriage. And I would ask you to take a few minutes to take a calm and safe space at a calm and safe time in your home, and to sit or stand, whatever is comfortable for you, and look into each other's eyes. And we're not talking, we're just connecting. Take 3 to 6 minutes. If that sounds like a lot, so take less. If that sounds like too little, so then take more. I wouldn't say much more than 6 minutes because it could be a little awkward and you don't want anyone ever to be put out, either side of the relationship to be put out. Look into each other's eyes. Could hold each other's hands if that feels safe. And allow for your feelings to come up. Allow for the feelings that came up for you tonight or today during our learning together, whatever came to the surface, allow for them to be there and sit with each other. If it's not comfortable to hold hands, touch fingertips, or if you're sitting facing each other, maybe your kneecaps can touch. Or if touching isn't part of it for right now, that's okay also. Take the time to notice what's going on for you. And then if you have a few minutes afterwards, and I recommend that you do take time to share with the other what came up. Each one listen to your partner's response to this exercise. So thank you so much for joining us today and tonight. I hope you've gained some tools that could really shift perspective and allow for affecting change in your relationship, even starting today. Some tools, to take home physically and emotionally. And I really, if you're interested in continuing with the series, please write to me in the chat box. I'm happy to hear. I'm going to be turning over the webinar to Jillian. I just want to say goodbye and wishing you all hatzlacha and bracha as you continue on this journey of healthy intimacy, both emotionally and physically. Take care.
Thanks, Abby. You're going to still stick around, so don't worry, everyone. We're getting to as many questions as possible in just a few minutes. And of course, as Abby just mentioned, there is a full series that's available. I mentioned it in the very beginning, and I want to go ahead and give you all of the details to make sure that you have a chance to join and continue to learn with Abby so that you can take everything that you learned today and just continue to expound on it. So let me get into that and give you the details right now. In the next 5 weeks, you're going to go ahead and get 4 master classes plus a live Q&A to get all your questions answered in an anonymous forum. So you'll get 1 recorded class each week for the next 4 weeks. And then at the end, you'll have a live Q&A to get any other questions answered. In week 1, you're going to be discussing adjusting our sexual attitudes. Engage in a mindfulness practice to bring yourself to full awareness and gain a better understanding of how the messages you've heard and internalized about your own body and sexuality has impacted your intimacy with your partner. Then in week 2, creating an ideal intimate relationship, emotional and physical. Cultivate a safe and healthy dynamic based on trust, respect, reliability, and stability. By creating a relationship model that includes his space, her space, and shared space, you'll be able to experience a mutual pleasure of giving and receiving. Followed by how the body speaks its mind. Explore how the emotional realm affects the physical realm and vice versa. Often what is going on in the bedroom is reflective of certain dynamics taking place in the emotional part of a marriage. Plus, reapproach and redefine your ability to communicate with your spouse in regards to intimacy. And finally, intimacy, the foundation of Shalom Bayit. Using couple-centered therapeutic models, discover how to make changes in a marriage of 20 years where patterns have been set and potential pain inflicted. Plus, develop a language to get the pleasure you want with a new communication approach. And then, of course, as I mentioned, you get a full hour Q&A to gain solutions to your personal questions through a live Q&A and implementation session. Since I know that life can be busy and hectic, Abby has graciously spent the time to pre-record each of these sessions to make it accessible to you to listen to at any time and anywhere. You'll get your first class immediately upon registering, and then each week you'll receive a new class to listen to or download at your convenience. That way you won't have to schedule a specific day or time to attend, but rather you'll be able to find a time that's convenient for you, and if your spouse would like to listen as well, and you're scheduled to watch each video, take notes, and begin implementing these important tools immediately. Then once you've listened to each of the classes, we'll meet back up for a live Q&A so that you can get all of your questions answered and still remain completely anonymous. Before the class, you'll have an opportunity to send in your in case you can't make it to the live class, and you'll still be able to get the answers to your personal questions. So as soon as you register, you'll receive access to your own personal membership area that you can log into with your username and passcode that will be provided to you, and you'll find your classes in there to listen to and download at your convenience. Plus, in addition to that, you'll also get direct email access to Abby throughout your journey. Now, as I mentioned, it's a 4-week journey of pre-recorded classes plus the live Q&A, but Abby has, again, graciously agreed to give us 8 weeks of personal ongoing support throughout the program to get your personal questions answered through unlimited email access. In case you can't listen to something right away and you listen to it a week or 2 later, you'll still have those a couple extra weeks afterwards to make sure that you can get any questions answered that you still have. Plus, you'll also get, as the quality of intimacy evolves in a marriage, a bonus class that will help discover the changes a body and relationship go through regarding sexuality during your lifetime, from the time of puberty through old age. Plus, Abby will uncover potential challenges one may face in intimacy during your life cycle. And an additional bonus class on talking to your kids about intimacy and sexuality. Learn the value of allowing for safe and healthy communication between parents and children surrounding body image, sexuality, and intimacy. Abby will discuss age-appropriate speaking points for parents of children at every age and stage, from infancy through adulthood, so you will be able to develop the language to engage with your children surrounding these important topics. And finally, the first 50 people to register will also get a one-on-one phone consultation with Abby. I saw throughout today's class, people were asking about being able to speak to Abby directly, and your dream has come true. For the first 50 people to register, because Abby's time is so valuable, we're able to go ahead and do this, as I mentioned, for 50 people. You'll get a 30-minute personal phone consultation with Abby to get your personal questions answered and be guided through your marriage journey. So as you can see, Abby will be walking you through all aspects of creating and nurturing a healthy and happy intimate relationship with your spouse. You'll have one-on-one support throughout this program, and will have the unique ability and opportunity to get your personal questions answered that haven't been able to be answered previously. But most importantly, by investing in yourself and your marriage right now, you'll discover how to overcome feelings of resentment, anger, and neglect by creating a safe haven of love, acceptance, and passion in your home. Communicate your most delicate and vulnerable feelings with openness and get rid of all fear and judgment. Feel comfortable in your own skin and tune into the beauty and uniqueness of your body. Connect emotionally, spiritually, and physically with your spouse by learning how to fulfill each other's needs and desires. And protect the sanctity of your marriage by nurturing trust and respect, and never feel lonely, unloved, and unsatisfied again. An opportunity like this rarely happens, where you get a full series plus personalized email support and a one-on-one phone to ensure that you receive the full guidance you deserve. But we listen to all of our members' requests and have created an anonymous place to come by yourself or as a couple to get the answers you've been looking for to refresh and renew your relationship. So today we're opening up this opportunity to you to take advantage at a special discounted rate, as I mentioned in the beginning, for everyone on the line. Plus, to make it even more accessible, we are offering payment plan options when you register. So for the next 24 hours, our webinar attendee discount gives you an additional $100 off, so you only pay $397 for the full package of 4 classes plus the 5th live Q&A. Plus, as the first 50, you'll get your one-on-one phone consultation, you'll get unlimited email support throughout your journey, and the 2 bonus classes as the quality of intimacy evolves in a marriage and talking to your kids about intimacy and sexuality. And again, that is only $397. You can either pay one payment or you can pay in payment plans. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the link to join right now in your chat box. I'm going to put it there, and I'll also have it up on the screen. What you can do is actually just copy and paste it out of your browser and put it into a new browser so that you can continue to listen as we answer questions, but still make sure that you grab your spot immediately. It's www.jewishworkshops.com/intimacy. And I had put them there. Let me go ahead and put that right up on your screen as well. www.jewishworkshops.com /intimacy. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to put your name and your telephone number right into the chat box. I have my crew standing by. We are happy to go ahead and help you register over the phone, but please just make sure to come on back and write your name and telephone number if you have questions or need help registering. Again, I know that the first 50 to get that phone consultation is really important, and I know you are all seeking that extra special time with Abby. As I mentioned, Abby's time is extremely valuable, and we were able to work together in creating this package so that as many people as possible can get that one-on-one time. So please go ahead and grab your spot by going to jewishworkshops.com/intimacy or coming right back to the chat box and letting us know you need some help, and we're happy to give you a call. As soon as you do register, please come back and just write your initials and the words "I'm in" so that I know how many spots are being taken, and I can then go ahead and let the rest of the people know on the line. In the meantime, I am going to go ahead and get to as many questions as possible. There were some that came in, as I mentioned, ahead of time, and there are some that are coming in throughout the day. So if you do have questions, please feel free to go ahead and write those in. We will get to as many as possible. So Abby, let me go ahead and get to this first one right now as people are beginning to sign up and grab their spots. It actually was a common theme throughout the questions that came in ahead of time, plus the questions coming in tonight. And that is how to maintain interest in intimacy when you are juggling elderly parents, children, grandchildren, working full-time, everything mixed together. It always feels like at the end of the day, I have no energy or no interest, and I just don't have that connection anymore.
I totally hear that. I didn't even mention the added stressor of aging parents, but yeah, there's so many factors that that go on in a couple's in the span of a lifetime that would come before focusing on the marriage. So I heard two things, and I want to answer two things. So first of all, I think not having, I was on one track for the first part of for most of the question, and then kind of the last comment was, and I don't have any strength anymore. And so that set off a little like alarm bell for me of like, that speaks to kind of somebody running on empty in their relationship, that they're not getting what they need out of their relationship. And so the idea of giving into this relationship is just exhausting. Okay, so that is, that's a couples counseling issue. And I don't think everybody needs to go for couples counseling, but it is kedai to look at what are you getting in your relationship? How is your love tank being filled? And that's an idea that I speak about a lot. And I'll just tell you, I love Gary Chapman's work of the 5 love languages. And he speaks there about nobody can function in a relationship with their love tank being empty. And so understanding what is meaningful to you in receiving love and how to do that, and then being able to guide your partner in that, and him or her actually doing it will give you the energy to want to be engaged in a relationship with that person. But I'm not assuming anything. I'm not jumping to any conclusions. And so I'm going to answer the other part of the answer that I was thinking most of the question is that, who said you have to wait till the end of the night? Take out your calendar, both of your calendars. Everybody has their busy day, and block off a chunk of time the same way you would block off for an important doctor's appointment, for a kid's therapy appointment, for an elderly parent appointment, for everything else that's so important. If you truly believe and want for this relationship to be important, so then you have to make it important. And that entails blocking off time. And you're right. Who wants to deal with an emotional relationship at 11 o'clock at night after an entire day? So therefore, find a morning time slot. Find an early afternoon time slot. Find a time that could work for both of you before you hit exhaustion. And I think when couples actually literally take out their yomanim, you take out your calendar and you say, this is important, we're going to schedule it in a time that we can be giving to each other, it changes the whole discussion. It changes the whole approach. That's what I've seen. I hope that's helpful.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. I am going to go ahead and get to some of these other questions. Thank God we have such an incredible right off the bat. I want to go ahead and welcome AD, RR, SV, TS, YK, SS. You are all in. Congratulations. Welcome to the community. And yes, you are part of the first 50, so congratulations for that as well. I do just want to let everyone know, for some reason, worse timing, but we are having a little bit of issues with our email system today. So if you don't get that confirmation email immediately, please keep your eye on your inbox over the next several hours. That confirmation email will be coming. Not only will you get the email that you've registered, you'll also get your very first class and the instructions on how to listen. So again, please be patient. I appreciate your patience already ahead of time. Thank you for understanding. It is on its way, but it may not get there immediately. So please just keep your eye on your inbox. And welcome LB and MR as well. Wow, thank God. This is really wonderful to see everybody taking this next step. In the meantime, let me go ahead and get some questions that are coming in. And if you have any questions specifically about the classes, please also put those in here. I'm happy to go ahead and answer any of that as well. Abby, how do you talk to your partner and express how their criticism is affecting you without them feeling like you are being negative or critical in return?
Very, very good question. That is something that we will be discussing extensively in classes 3 and potentially 4 also. I think if I could just give one, a lot of these answers, I don't have a full story, I don't know the full picture, but if I could just give one Abragal Achas answer, that I feel like whenever a person wants to speak about their experience in their relationship, so we talk about in couples counseling and in sex therapy, we talk about I statements. We speak about, if you're speaking about what your experience is, and you use the word I, and you're not commenting on the other, and you're not commenting on his or her behaviors, but you're focusing on your experience in the relationship, so you can't really negate somebody's experience. and thereby you're expressing yourself. And I think that would be a way to communicate that.
Great, thank you. I just saw somebody ask a quick question in here. She's wondering if the course is going to be for her. She's specifically looking for answers on female pleasure, and if you're going to be discussing that more in depth and can give more insights into that.
Yes, class 2 is mostly about the mitzvah of ona, which has to do with, conjugal relations within a marriage, and we do discuss their female pleasure within the marriage as well as female pleasure as a standalone topic. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I just had and answer this question that came in from LS. So as I had mentioned before, and again, I know that I gave some details. If I spoke a little too quickly, I'm sorry. Let me just go back over one more time. The course is going to entail the next 4 weeks. Over the course of the next 4 weeks, you'll be getting one pre-recorded class each week to listen to and download at your convenience. Once you've joined and become a member, you'll have access to these classes for a lifetime. So God willing, you'll be able to listen to them over the next several weeks so that on that after the 4 weeks, you'll be ready and available for that live Q&A that you get to get your questions answered from Abby. But if not, and you want to review at any point, of course, these classes will be available to you to listen to whenever that is convenient for you. Plus, as part of the package, you'll also get 8 weeks of email access directly to Abby. So as you're listening to each of the classes, either on your own, with your partner, you can feel free to send in some questions to make sure that you're understanding everything clearly, or if you'd like something specific answered for your situation, she will go ahead and answer that as well. Plus, 2 additional bonus classes, as I mentioned, talking to your kids about intimacy and sexuality, as well as the quality of intimacy evolves in a marriage. And that really helps take you through the changes of your body and what relationship goes through over the course of a lifetime. So whether you've gotten married just recently and are, in your 20s, or you've been married for 30, 40, 50 years and you're at a stage in life that a lot of our women I see are either premenopausal or menopausal, whatever stage you're going through, you'll learn different tools and techniques to still be able to keep your relationship fresh and connected and safe, thank God. And then, as I mentioned again, the first 50 people today that are registering will get that one-on-one phone consultation as well. And thank God, looks like we've already got a good portion of those taken. So I will go ahead and put that link again into your chat box so that you can easily just take it out and put it into your other browser and still continue to listen. But it's www.jewishworkshops.com/intimacy. And I did see someone ask about registering with a promo code. Because you're here today and we can see that you are an attendee of the webinar, you don't even need a promo code. You can go straight to the page, click on register now, and it will show you the very reduced price of $397, and it will also give you the payment plan options that are available to you, which will actually break down how much you will pay over the course of that amount of months. So you can schedule it into your calendar and know exactly the monetary commitment that you're making ahead of time. Okay, so if there are any other questions, please feel free to come on back and let me know. Welcome SS, wonderful, and welcome SW, great to see you as well. Yes, there are still spots left in the first 50, so please, if you're having any trouble registering or need help, just come back and put your name and your telephone number right into the chat box. I don't want you to miss the opportunity, but we'll go ahead and give you a call to help you register as well. Okay, Abby, we've got some more questions here. I feel like my wife is very focused on the physical side of sex, saying things like, that was very good afterwards, but I feel hurt and used, and I want to hear her say how much she loves me or how much closer she feels, and not statements about just the level of physical pleasure during the act. Please help. I don't want to make her feel uncomfortable, but I don't know how to say this.
Well, that is a very specific question. I would be happy to be helpful. I don't think this is the venue, but there's definitely a lot of work there, and I think the main part of the work, in a very general sense, is what we spoke about tonight: is being able to have a discussion. And I think what you're speaking to right now is not being able to express yourself in your marriage. And I would imagine that this wouldn't be the only place, the bedroom isn't the only place where you're having challenges expressing yourself in your marriage. And so, again, I don't know enough about the relational dynamic, how much it has to do with how the two of you relate to each other, and how much it has to do with you, yourself, and certain challenges that you may have had in your past or are having currently. But there's definitely a lot of work to be done there. I'm happy to be supportive of you in some way in that work, or help you find a place where you can do that. A great question, and don't give up, assuming that you're in a safe marriage, which I never want to assume, but hopefully you heard all of my warnings, that if you do believe that there is room for you feeling safe to have that discussion, then I would encourage you to do so. But again, that's a big assuming that you feel safe.
Thank you so much. I want to go ahead and welcome CLFG and ER. And as people continue to sign up, please just come on back and write your initials and the words "I'm in," so I can welcome you and keep a tally over here of how many spots we still have left. But welcome to all. Congratulations on becoming new members of our community. Abby, how do you deal with the resentment of lack of intimacy when one partner is more interested than the other and it turns out that they're just not spending that time together at all?
You cut out on the last part of the question. Can you just repeat that? Sorry.
I'm sorry. And it turns out that they're not ending up spending any time together at all, and the intimate life is really lacking.
How do I deal with it in this course, or how do I deal with it in my private practice?
No, how does sorry, how does a spouse deal with the resentment that they have over the lack of intimacy in their relationship?
Okay, how does the individual deal with the resentment that they feel?
Correct.
At not having this? Okay. That's a big one. I think all of these are big ones. I think everything surrounding this topic is big and heavy. And I think it's not only resentment, but it's potentially hurt and pain and feelings of rejection. And I think it's really, really hard. I don't think there's a simple answer to that, but the answer that does exist is the answer that exists within the relationship sound house, okay? That what you're speaking to is pain and hurt and feelings of rejection and not feeling valued, not feeling appreciated, not feeling, that your spouse isn't into you. And so it takes me right back to, and this is why I do the intro with the relationship sound house, is that is the work, being able to develop the emotional communication, the ability to communicate with each other emotionally in order to create the safe space to not just have great sex, but have healthy discussion surrounding sexuality. It's really, really hard work. I think what you're speaking to and the question speaks to like a real deep level of pain of just like, how does a spouse even deal with this? And so there is a way to deal with it, and it entails a lot of work. And it starts here. It starts at the foundation of the relational house with the trust and the commitment, and then layer by layer, building.
Great.
And I want to say, sorry, Jillian, I just want to say, I really appreciate how everybody is asking these like really intense questions that I don't think even a little bit, I'm just going to plug this in, I don't think even a little bit that I could answer, to the full extent of of the issue that you're dealing with. I'm hearing the pain. I'm hearing the challenges that each of you are really dealing with in your marriage. And I don't think that things get solved like this. I do think, though, that if two people are committed to building relationship, then there is what to work with, and it does entail a lot of work.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Just to answer another question, if you have not received your immediate email confirmation, again, my apologies in advance. We have been having some difficulty with the email system this entire day, but please feel free to email us at jewishworkshops@jewishworkshops.com. If you have any questions regarding your registration, we are happy to go ahead and just give you a quick email back and let you know that it did go through, or if there were any troubles with that, then of course we can tell you that as well. But please just stick tight and be patient. Those emails are coming out as quickly as possible. God willing, I'm really hoping that they get that system back up and running over the next hour or so. In the meantime, welcome SS, thank you, and RE, welcome JB and SR, are all in, and we are so happy to have you again as part of our community. Welcome to all. Abby, we've got more questions piling up here, so again, we're just going to try to get to as many as possible here. Let's see. I'm not good at initiating intimacy. I think that actually has come up on several different occasions here. How do you deal with when one person feels like they're initiating more often, and if they're not comfortable initiating? How can a couple come together?
Again, a long answer is really required for that, and but I think again the basis of that is the place to start is to develop the language to communicate about the issue. And I think what you're speaking to is just this topic being like a standoff topic, a topic that we can't discuss, a topic that's hands off. And there's no way to even start a discussion about it. And so I would say start the discussion by literally labeling what's going on, labeling the body parts, allowing it to be a speakable topic.
Thank you. Can you address, someone had asked, why is it such a taboo topic in our community?
Such a good question. Okay. I feel like Julie and I should add another bonus part about just like my theories on that. My theories on that whole topic are long, but I will try to make them concise here so we have time for all the questions. I actually think it's taboo for a few reasons. I think somehow over the past few hundred years, ideas surrounding tznius, the Jewish ideas of tznius, modesty, have been misinterpreted to be about cover this and don't look there and don't touch that. Sorry, when really and truly, I don't think that's really, sorry, it's really coming down out here. Thank God for Ishmei Bracha, right? For rain of blessing, but it's loud. But it's really, that's not necessarily the Jewish approach and the Jewish take on what tznius really is. And there's also certain sources that speak about, nobody should know when you go to the mikvah and you shouldn't talk about your intimate life with others. But I really do believe that a lot of our views as we see them today surrounding intimacy and sexuality are due to 2,000 years of being in Galus, 2,000 years of being influenced by Christianity in a very broad sense of just like what it means to be living amongst the Goyim, and to be, if you think about what is Christianity's view on sexuality. So their Gedolim, their holiest people, are, celibate, and, the woman is considered the devil, and those ideas are what we have been surrounded by for 2,000 years. So I think it has been very hard to hold on to a wholesome version of our Masorah And sadly, it has become very taboo. I think you could hear in that answer that I really want to speak for an hour about it. But it has actually been very sad that this topic has become taboo, because when we don't allow for healthy discussion and when we don't allow for open discussion surrounding the physical body and the body parts, then it allows for unhealthy pieces to come up. And I'll just say this quickly. I recently spoke at an event that really was promoting discussion surrounding the mikvah. There's a new show called Mikvah the Musical. These women are doing that bring to light different people's experiences in the mikvah. And I spoke briefly there, and I brought the source from the Shulchan Aruch, and that speaks about Tzarech Bita, the idea that a woman is not allowed to be tovel on the seventh day. Why? She only can be tovel at night. Why only at night? Because Chas v'Shalom, her daughter might think that she's going on even on the 8th day or the 9th day, she's not allowed to. Why? Because it might be misconstrued that by her daughter that she might be going on the 7th day. And if she's going on the 7th day, she's not really tahora yet. So here we see that it was understood that the daughters are with their mothers, and the daughters are picking up on the mores and the customs and what was going on in their parents' home. And I said, and I actually have an article now online on my website. You can see it on jewishintimacy.com. That just if we talk about the top 3 mitzvos, right? Shabbos, Kashrus, and Taharas HaMishpacha, right? And Shabbos and Kashrus, so much of what we give over to our children is by example, is what they see us doing and how we do it, and the intricacies and the beauty and the love. And Taharas HaMishpacha, what they're not allowed to see. So what message are they getting about it? What message are we giving to them? Oh, you're not allowed to know about it? No, it's creating a whole topic that's taboo, but it doesn't make any sense because it's such an important part of our lives. So I believe that it's something that happened over the generations, and I believe now in 2019, 5779, that it's really something that the Frum people are taking back, that we are developing a language for sexuality, for healthy sexuality. I think also with the prevalence of pornography and the prevalence of sex abuse, people are realizing that if we don't arm our children, if we don't arm ourselves with healthy information about this, then there's no way to know what behaviors are appropriate and inappropriate and what we're viewing is appropriate or inappropriate. And allowing something to be speakable is the first step. Creating a language in the home to address these issues is so vitally important, and taking the first step to tearing down the taboo, to breaking down the taboo.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I just want to go ahead and welcome SS, welcome DS, and welcome NW. It's great to have all of you here as well. And as we continue to go through these questions, we've got just a little bit more time left. So if you are having any difficulties registering, please come back and put your name and telephone number right here into the question box so that we can help you register over the phone and make sure you get your spot. And again, if you have registered on your own, please come on back and let me know you're in so that I can just keep track of that as well. And of course, I'd love to be able to welcome you. So I'm going to have time for just a few more questions, and let me get to this one that we just had come in here. I somehow never end up enjoying the act of physical intimacy. Is there anything that we can do to improve this? And is this going to be something you talk more in depth about in the series?
100% something that I'm going to talk more in depth about. I would say also the short version answer, and this is something that I think is applicable for a lot of people. So thank you for bringing it up, along with all the questions that people brought up. Really, I think the questions that are being brought up are questions that a lot of people wonder about. I would say, Al Regel Achas, that there is so much value to exploring sensuality within the couple. I think, it's telling me that my battery is running low. Okay, I might have to call you back in soon. Let me just finish this this answer. Is that I think we, again, in the culture that has been built surrounding sexuality, is we have become such a penetrative, sex-focused culture that the only way to enjoy sex is for actual penetration. That also has to do with halachos surrounding shechar zara levatala. Definitely, and I'm not taking away from that. But I think that if there is the ability for you and your spouse to expand your repertoire and expand your understanding of sexuality, of understanding of what pleasure is, and that pleasure doesn't necessarily need to be focused on genitalia, but it can actually be an experience in the entire body. I think that could be very valuable. And if you're speaking to some level of pain or discomfort in terms of vaginal penetration or erectile dysfunction, so that's definitely something that's worth getting looked at or being in touch with a sex therapist about. But yeah, definitely a topic that will be discussed.
Thank you so much. So as we get ready to just end in a little bit, let me get these last couple questions here. Sorry, where did that one go?
Julian, I just want to let you know my battery just told me that it's running low and somehow it's not charging. So if we get disconnected, I'll call back in on the number that you gave me, okay?
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
For sure.
Okay, I never feel like I'm able to get my wife in the mood. I feel like I've tried everything and read every book, but she just isn't attracted to me anymore. Now I've even stopped wanting to try because the constant rejection isn't fun. We've been married for over 12 years, and it seems like time of the stresses of life have taken a toll on the excitement in our relationship. We used to have tons of passion.
I'm sorry, I lost you. What has taken a toll? I just lost you there.
The stresses of life have taken a toll. And we used to have tons of passion. But what is it that we can do to help myself and my wife more interested and even correct the issue at this point?
Okay, well, I think that I think for at least what you're speaking about, I think it sounds like passion has to become a secondary hope or secondary goal. It really sounds like you and your wife need to recalibrate and get back on the same page with each other. I think a first step in that is understanding past hurt and pain. What would cause somebody to start distancing themselves from the other sexually usually has to do with emotional hurt that we discussed together, that we understood. It could also have to do with physical pain, but most often has to do with emotional pain. And what you described is a real dynamic of you at that point feeling hurt or rejected, and therefore yourself kind of withdrawing. So it sounds like it would be kedai for you guys to go through some kind of couples process. I think that it's not beyond you. 12 years is a long time, but it's also not a long time if you're looking, God willing, at the next 120 years. And so there's no time like the present to get the work started in a careful way, because it sounds like there's a lot of hurt and pain that has been inflicted and been received on both ends. Proceed with caution.
Thank you so much. I just had this other question come in, and it actually seems like there are a number of people who feel or have the same sentiments. How do I deal with my wife and I have a mismatched libido. She can go, a few months without physical intimacy, where I have a desire for several times a week. It's always me who initiates, and I'm tired of the near constant rejection and resentment on her part. What can we do?
Okay, so I feel like similar to the last question is we really have to look at what are the reasons, okay? So always, first of all, we look at medical reasons, hormone levels, different medications that people are on and how they could be affected, pregnancy, nursing, childbirth, any life event that could affect hormone levels and libido. Those are all for real. Birth control. There are so many different forms of birth control, and this we'll talk about more, that affect hormone levels and that affect sex drive. But I think, and once you're able to kind of check a lot of those things off the list, it's also then at that point we kind of have to say it's not usually just low libido, high libido, low libido. There's usually an emotional component there. There's usually feelings underlying how much a person would want to expose themselves to the other sexually, who would want to make themselves vulnerable to the other sexually. Often in cases that I've seen surrounding this issue, couples that I've worked with, they would describe, one partner being very stiff during the actual sexual act, and not engaging in
Okay, it looks like Abby may have just cut out for a minute. I'm so sorry about that. God willing, we will get her back on here in another minute or so. Welcome in the meantime, CC. Let me see, we just had a few. Welcome, CV. Yes, you are both part of the first 50. Congratulations. Welcome, KF. It's wonderful to have you as well. Anyone else who is needing help with registering, please come on back. Just put your name and your telephone number right into the chat box, and we will go ahead and give you a call. As I mentioned, God willing, we'll get Abby back. But with just these last few minutes left here, if anyone has any questions regarding the course itself, please feel free to put those questions right into the chat box so that I can go ahead and get those answered for you and help you register before these spots are filled. And of course, if you are not part of the 50, if you make it in afterwards, you still have a lot to look forward to. As I spoke about earlier, it's going to be 4 weeks of pre-recorded classes and then a live Q&A at the very end, plus the additional email support throughout your journey with Abby and the 2 additional bonus classes as well. And it sounds like, Abby, did you get back on?
I did. I apologize.
Thank you so much. I'm back. No, we're glad to have you. I was just wrapping up some things. We're going to just be on here for another minute or so. It would be great if you could just leave I guess some closing sentiments for everyone who's still here. And if they're still maybe on the fence of whether this is the right course for them and their relationship, if you could just leave us with some words of wisdom.
Okay, great. Well, I would say that, it has been just the questions that came out tonight. We had time for questions and answers. It sounds like people are dealing with really real issues. People are looking for real solutions to things going on in their daily life. And I would encourage you to really take a step. I don't pretend that every single one of your issues that you ever encountered in your marriage is going to be solved, but I do think that a lot of the things that come out of the 4-part series that we offer, plus the 2 bonus classes, plus the ability to be in touch with me directly via email and over the phone, if you're one of the first 50, is really an opportunity to take those first steps to change in your marriage. And I don't think anybody is beyond change. And beyond growth. I meet with couples again at all stages and all, and in every age range and in every different stage of their lives, and there is room for growth. And I think, don't hold yourself back from growth. And I would love to be part of a learning process with you in the coming weeks.
That's great. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and leave the webinar open for just a couple minutes. You won't hear any of us speaking, but I'm going to leave it open in case you still need to get your name and telephone number in here for us to help you register. So I'll go ahead and do that for everyone who's left here on the line. Thank you, Abby, so much for joining us and really opening up a discussion that so few people are comfortable doing. And it's such a necessary topic and such an important topic for everyone. So thank you for being here. Thank you for starting this conversation with us. And thank you for offering this full series to everyone. And thank you to all of you who joined from all over the world. It was so nice to see people really from all ends of the earth. It was really beautiful. Thank you for being here. If you have any questions, please feel free to stick those into the chat box. I'll still have it open for a little bit. And if you need help or have questions about whether your registration went through, please feel free to email us at any time, jewishworkshops@jewishworkshops.com, and we will get back to you that way. Thank you to everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Okay, take care. Bye now.
Bye.